Math Time with Mr. Baumhofer.
Greetings, third graders. Mr. Baumhofer here with another video lesson. This one will be on how to locate fractions on a number line that are less than 1. Okay, so I have a few number lines set up for us. And remember, our number lines have these arrows on each end representing they continue on in each direction forever. But we will be dealing with fractions in between 0 and 1. So if we look at this first example, I have a fraction over here, 2/3. Okay, so where does the point for 2/3 go on this number line? So it's less than 1, so it would go somewhere in between 0 and 1. And if I look at my denominator, that tells me how many equal parts make up the whole. So that's how many sections or parts I will need to make in between 0 and 1. And so you can use a ruler. Mr. B is just going to use his eyeball and guess. So don't be too critical of my lines. And so now I will try to break this area in between the 0 and the 1 into 3 equal sections. So I would put something of a line like right here and about right here. Okay, now my lines aren't perfect. My mouse is a little off, but I will you'll get the general idea of what I'm trying to show you. So 2/3, if I look and start at 0 and go here, this is one section. So this is where 1/3 would be. Okay. Okay, and then 2/3 would be 2 sections, right? And let's see if I can just use this instead. There we go, nice. So 2/3 would be right here. Let me erase these. And actually I do have a line. Okay, 1/3 would be here. 2/3 would be here. So this is where I would mark 2/3. Okay? Now for our next example, 1/3, well, we already kind of solved that one up here. And so I'll put another line here. Draw a straight line. There we go. And line these up as best as I can. Okay, and so 1/3, we know 2/3 was here. And so 1/3 would be this section right here. This is where we would locate 1/3. Now for the next two examples, I have two fractions that we're going to locate on the same number line. Don't get scared. This is pretty simple once you get the hang of it. So if we look at the first fraction, I have 1/2. So I know because my denominator is 2, I have to split this area in between 0 and 1 into 2 equal sections. So I would just need one line right in the middle. And this is where 1/2 would be. If we look at the other fraction, we have 1/4. So our denominator is 4, which means we have to break the line up into 4 equal parts. And we can use the line where the 1/2 fraction is to help us out with this. Because we already have it split into 2 equal parts, I would need to make 2 more lines, one here, to split between 0 and 1/2 into 2 equal parts, and then another line between 1/2 and 1 to make 2 more equal parts. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. So now I can try to locate, well, where is the first of the 4 equal parts, which would equal 1/4. So I start at 0 and I go to the first line, and that's where my first part is, and that's where 1/4 would be located. All right? And so if we're looking to do that, locate two fractions on the same number line, it can help to use different color lines when you're breaking it up for each fraction so that you can identify and not get too confused as to what line represents what fraction. So if we look at our last example, I have 1/3 for one fraction and 3/4 for another. So let's start with 1/3. My denominator is 3, so I know I have to break up this line into 3 equal parts. And so I'll make a line very similar to my problems at the top. Make a line about right here. Whoops, that's a little lopsided. We'll just keep that for now. Pretend it's straight. And a line about, whoops, right here. Okay, and so now I'm looking for, my numerator is 1, so I'm only looking for where the first section is. So if I go to the first line, that is where 1/3 of the whole will be. Okay, and now for my problem up here, I do know that this is 2/3 as well. And if I go back over to what's my bottom fraction, it's 3/4. So now I have to make some new lines and split this between 0 and 1 into 4 sections. And so I can do a similar process to when we compare it to this problem and find where halfway between 0 and 1 is. And then halfway between 1/2, or I'm sorry, 0 and 1/2 would be about right here. Okay. And then about halfway between 1/2 and 1 would be about right here. And so now I have it. If I look at these lines, 0 to this line is one section. This line to 1/2 is one section. This line to in between 1/2 and 1 is another section. And then this last section will equal 4 sections. So I have it split into fourths. And now I need to find 3/4. Well, if I go from 0 to this line, that's only one section. So that would be 1/4. If I go from 1/4 to 1/2, or to the middle, that would be 1/2, or 2/4. Then if I went from 2/4 and added another section, I have 3/4. And so there is where 3/4 would be labeled. Okay, so when we're trying to locate multiple fractions on the same number line, again, it can get a little confusing, so try and practice this at home, maybe with some scrap sheet of paper and a ruler, and try to make your own fraction lines and try to find multiple. Start with one fraction and then try to add different fractions by breaking up between 0 and 1 into different denominator numbers, meaning different numbers of sections that make up the whole. Okay, third graders, I hope this helped. Stay tuned for more videos.